Yeah, so it was interesting to see that. Yeah, somebody hauled off that building and put it back there. Yeah.
Our timekeeper is here.
We got about 52 seconds. Nobody's here to take
49.
Trent's photo. Alder's taking a photo, getting sworn in. Got it right here, ready.
Bring it on if you want to.
Awesome. Bill over there 2 years ago.
Yeah.
She introduced him and I guess
Well, here you go. There's Teddy.
Well, there it is. Wait, no.
sometimes that's all it takes.
Like they have a good one.
You're gonna get a photo of the swearing in? Okay.
That's really very well.
State law requires this body to announce at this time that a copy of the current Open Meetings Act is available at the back of the room where it is accessible to the public. Simpson.
Here.
Sisson.
Here.
Dermott.
Here.
Gibbons.
Here.
Verbaugh.
Here.
Euchre.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Aldridge.
Here.
Thank you. If we can all stand, please, for a moment of silence. Amen. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. It's now time, item number 1, consent agenda. Approve this agenda, pay the claims as submitted, and approve the city treasurer's report for July 2020.
So moved.
Aldridge, second by
Second.
Gibbons.
Simpson.
Yes.
Sisson.
Yes.
McDermott.
Yes.
Gibbons.
Yes.
Verbaugh. Yes. Johnson.
Yes.
Aldridge.
Yes.
Thank you. Item 2, approve the minutes of the August 4th, 2020 special council meeting. We had to have a special council meeting to nominate and appoint a council member for the vacancy in Ward 4. We did appoint Trent Fuker. So, motion to approve the minutes for the special council meeting.
So moved.
McDermott.
I'll second.
Urban.
Gibbons.
Yes.
Verbaugh. Yes. Johnson.
Yes.
Aldridge.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Sisson.
Abstain.
McDermott.
Yes.
Motion carried. Approve the minutes of the August 4th regular council meeting.
So moved.
Simpson,
Second.
Gibbons,
Sisson.
Abstain.
McDermott.
Yes.
Gibbons.
Yes.
Verbaugh. Yes. Johnson.
Yes.
Aldridge.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
You.
It is now time, item number 4, swearing in Trent Fuker as our council member, new council member, Ward 4.
Well, it's too many ones that have space.
Trent has his back to the camera.
That's all, he's got his front to that.
Oh, okay.
I don't even know We can't satisfy everybody, somebody's got to.
We get you coming and going, buddy.
Somebody's got to get his good side.
Where's the drum roll at?
Okay, raise your right hand and repeat after me, please. I, Trent Fuker, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Nebraska against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
I, Trent Fuker, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Nebraska against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, and that I take this obligation freely and without mental reservation or for the purpose of evasion.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that I take this obligation freely and without mental reservation or for the purpose of evasion.
And that I will faithfully and impartially perform the duties of the office of City Council Member according to the law and to the best of my ability.
And that I will faithfully and impartially perform the duties of the office of City Council Member according to the law and to the best of my ability.
And I do further swear that I do not advocate, nor am I a member of any political party or organization that advocates the overthrow of the government of the United States or of this state by force or violence.
And I do further swear that I do not advocate, nor am I a member of any political party or organization that advocates the overthrow of the government of the United States or of this state by force or violence.
And that during such time as I am in this position, I will not advocate nor become a member of any political party or organization that advocates the overthrow of the government of the United States or of this state by force or violence. So help me God.
And that during such time as I am in this position, I will not advocate nor become a member of any political party or organization that advocates the overthrow of the government of the United States or of this state by force or violence. So help me God.
Congratulations. Pleasure.
Don't sit down yet. Congratulations, Councilmember Fuker. Welcome to the council. Thank you. Okay, now we can start our business. Item 5, the public forum. If anybody has something that wants to bring before this awesome council, now something that is not on the agenda, now's the time and place for it. If not, I will close the public forum. Item 6, consider request from a Methodist Church to block off 6th Avenue in front of the church from 4 p.m. till 9 p.m. on Wednesday, September 2nd, 2020 for the annual Back to School kickoff event. I think Candace is on Zoom.
I am. Hey, I'm just wanting to request to block off 6th Avenue from the alley by the Methodist Church west over to West Avenue, September 2nd from 4 to 9 p.m. for our kickoff for the year.
And this is something that you've done, what, 3-4 years?
It's been a few years, yes. I don't remember how many exactly.
And it's open for a lot of youth in the community, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Something that we have done in the past. Any questions from the council for Ms. Miller?
I move that we approve the request. Second.
Aldrich moves. Sisson?
Simpson.
Yes.
Sisson.
Yes.
McDermott.
Yes.
Gibbons.
Yes.
Burbine.
Yes.
Euchre.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Aldridge.
Yes.
Thank you, Mrs. Miller.
Thanks, guys.
Item 7, consider opening the landfill on Sunday, September 27th, 2020 for the Trinity Church Serve Sunday Committee Community Cleanup Project. And I would presume,
Yes, representing the church. We're going to have our cleanup day on the 27th of September. We've done this in the past. I think we did it for 3 years. Last year we didn't do it because of the building and we had a project going on. But this year we are going to do it, and we're going to do hopefully a lot of cleanup stuff for around residential areas. We even do some in businesses and parks and so forth. And as we do that, we'll generate quite a bit of yard trash and also tree limbs and trees and whatever. So we would like to be able to take that stuff to the landfill on that day, on Sunday, and probably starting like 11 and maybe wrapping up around 4, something like that. The churches were more than willing to pay for an employee to be there. I understand that, of course, they wouldn't normally be open, so we're sure willing to do that.
I think in the past, we covered the cost, didn't we, when they did this before?
Yeah, I think we did.
I would say we do that again.
And this says 1 to 4.
Okay, well, that was,
And
and it probably will be a little later. I'm just saying 11, I know we're starting at 11, and we won't be out there by 11 o'clock, I'm sure it'll be a little bit later. So, I mean, if that works 1 o'clock, then that's when we'll start bringing stuff out, that's fine.
But it typically takes a while to load up, clean up the property.
Yep.
Be out there. And I presume the church will also have somebody there by the gatekeeper to ensure that certain items.
Right. And it's strictly, yard waste, tree, limbs and that kind of thing. We're not doing anything in the landfill. We don't want to do that. Not requesting that at all, so.
Can we give you a list?
Well, we're starting to put one together, so.
If the property owner is agreeable, that's the main thing. The
Yeah.
property owner has to be agreeable.
Right, and we have a form that they have to fill out and agree to us doing what we're gonna do, so, but, yeah.
In the past, Chief DeMood and his group has given me some suggestions too to
Yeah,
contact before the 27th.
yeah.
Get them on
And
board.
that'd be great.
Typically, there's a sheet to sign up
Yeah.
from the property owner.
Right, yep, we have a sheet, it's just a formality, a liability thing. And they are giving our permission, or their permission for us to do it, so.
Need any help?
Yes, we do, we'll take volunteers. We have a sheet for that too.
A sheet for everything.
That's right.
Any other questions for Mr. Harrington?
I'd move we approve and cover the cost of having our labor there.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
Sisson,
Yes.
McDermott,
Yes.
Gibbon,
Yes.
Burbine, abstain, Hupker,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes, sir.
Aldridge,
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Thank you very much, we appreciate that very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 8, consider health insurance update from Mr. Jason Powers.
There's supposed to be applause after that. Pass those down, pass those down. Pass those
I don't know, I haven't been in committee this year, I stepped away from it. They do have, they're looking for,
around.
yeah.
Well, good evening. Appreciate you being on the agenda this evening. I am sort of a little bit of an overdue update on where we're at with plan performance. And I wanted to make sure that I didn't just send this one in the council packet. I want to make sure that we talked about it. This is an update through claims paid through July 31st of this year. So is a sort of a recap overview for a couple of the newer members. We have a partially self-funded health plan where we, as a city, fund our own claims, and we purchase reinsurance coverage that helps cover excess losses above and beyond certain thresholds. So as we look through these reports and kind of get a feel for the update, just keep in mind we do have claims liability up to a certain point, and then we've got reinsurance that comes in and covers our excess coverage. Okay. So in years past, we've had a lot of good updates, a lot of really good news to share with the council. This is a year where I've got news. I don't know that it's good or bad, but certainly numbers on the claims side have increased over the past 18 months. As we look through 2020 year to date through July 31st, on the surface it looks like we're in a surplus position and things are running along pretty smooth. When I dig a little deeper into the actual claims analysis, we've got sort of a backload of claims that actually gobble up the entirety of our surplus for the year so far. So when you're looking at that report, it looks like on the far right, we've got a surplus for the year so far. We did have some incurred dates, so those are claims that would have been incurred probably earlier in the year and then paid in those months. So outside of those 2 months, we seem to be leveling off. Something that's kind of going on in the industry, we're not seeing a lot of elective surgeries due to COVID, so from an industry-wide perspective, we expect that trend to continue for at least the next few months. That might change as things start to open up again and people start to schedule elective surgeries, and that may have an impact on where we end up for the end of the year. Okay. Loss ratio overall, based on total money put in versus total money coming out, was 84%. But as I said, claims that we've got pending, ready to be processed through August 18th will eat up that surplus. Income statement on that next page looks, and that's it again, tells the same story. Looks like we've got a positive surplus, but again, knowing that we've got claims coming that need to be funded, they will eat up that income from the plan for the year. The next page is a page I think Dean puts in the packet every month. This is the aggregate analysis for the year. Again, it's a restatement of a lot of the numbers that are we've already looked through on the first couple of pages. It just splits out your medical cost, medical claims cost versus the pharmacy cost. And this is for claims paid in the year 2020. So this is going to differ from some of these other reports based on the fact that these might have claims incurred in 2019. And those claims go against last year's stop loss contract. So we buy our contract in 12-month incurred, and then we have a 6-month tail on the end of that contract. So we actually have an 18-month paid contract. Why that's important is because when we looked at plan performance for 2019, we looked at it the council meeting on November 4th. And at that time, we looked like we were in a pretty good surplus position for the year 2019. We had, and I've got some other reports in here that we'll go over here in a second. We had a nice surplus from 19. We still had a pretty good surplus from 2018. And as we looked at making some changes to the self-funded plan, we could move the needle a little bit on the threshold the city could absorb and bring the renewal cost down. If you recall, our renewal was 3.4% in a year where the average industry trend was 13. So we were hedging against that curve in the industry, doing really well. What occurred within a few weeks of that meeting, where we had claims that were incurred and got paid later in February and March, that ended up eating up our surplus. So as we kind of look back in retrospect, thinking we had a surplus that we could use to absorb a lot of the potential for an increase, it went away pretty quickly without a lot of a heads up. So as we flip to the next page, you can kind of see for this year, for 2020, and I've got some other reports for 2019 to kind of round out 2019, but for this year alone, amongst three claimants, we were at $379,000 in medical claims. One of those claimants was the one that we knew was potentially coming, not potentially, we knew the claim was coming. We were working on some recommendations to get that claim mitigated and offloaded to some other coverages. That didn't happen, and so what instead occurred is that claim hit the city's plan. And so they ate up our surplus from the year prior. You flip to, and we can kind of go back through this with, I know I'm flying through some of these numbers, but the real meat and potatoes is at the last page. This was a page we talked about on November 4th, where we had surplus in 18 and surplus in 19. We had some excess risk on a potential claimant of $225,000. But we had surplus of $232,000, which would have left us in a positive scenario. The surprise claims we had on November 5th and November 12th ended up eating up that surplus. We were able to recover some additional surplus from 2018 by going after maybe another carrier or getting a rebate on some prescriptions. So the 18 surplus ended a little bit higher than we expected. But 19 ended at 7,000 instead of 174. So when you do that math, we're short. We're short. My projection is we'll be short about 152,000 for this year. So what we set rates for in January will end up short by 152,671 is where I came up with that projection. So. There's a couple of ways that we can kind of mitigate that. My recommendation would be to consider breaking that up over month by month. From I don't think we haven't paid August premium yet. We've got September, we've got October, November, and December. By breaking that up over the next 5 months, that would increase our monthly payment to the plan by roughly $30,000 a month. We still may finish in a surplus position if claims kind of, if the trend continues and things level out, we may end up with a surplus position and then be able to use that money for 2021. But I'd rather that we sort of hedge that off now versus wait until we get to 12/31 and finding out we didn't level off. So. That's a lot to throw in there all at once. So essentially, if we look back at where we were in November of last year, had we been able to see a crystal ball and forecast where we'd be in August, we would have added that 152 into the renewal, and it would have just been a different renewal increase from the start instead of trying to catch it up mid-year. So, questions? It's a lot to process.
What are we looking at for next year?
It's a great question. So we've processed 46 renewals since July 1st. So July, August, and September, and we haven't processed all the Octobers yet. Industry-wide, across that sampling, we're looking at 14.7% increase on 46 cases. The high, if you take out the high and the low, the average across that same sampling of groups is about 11%. With the city, based on what I know in the claims data and the analysis that we've done up to this point, I would expect our claims factor piece of remember that's one piece of the entire equation. I would expect our claims piece to sustain about a 20 to 25% increase. It does not represent the entire premium. The entire premium includes your fixed costs and some other components. I don't think our fixed cost will change much. So when we blend that in, I think you'll be in that 13 to 17% range. But what I've talked with Dane about is that looking outside of our current carrier and provider and going out and getting a competitive bid for administrative services and then going out to different stop loss markets. This stop loss carrier has had the city's risk for 18, 19, and for 20. And so we'll go out and look at a different reinsurance carrier to see if we can attract some new business rates from that stop loss market. I think overall, based on what I know with the claims and the history and the new business market right now, I think we can mitigate that and bring that back in range of what we've sustained over the last few years, which is single digit. So, what I could not recall is where we were budget wise in discussions in 19 prior to the November 4th meeting. So I wasn't sure. I don't know the impact of the ask tonight to 2019's budget. So that 152, I feel like was part of that discussion. I think the budget budgeted for a certain increase for 2019 into 2020, and we came in at 3.4. So I think we were below that budget number. But I don't know. I wasn't part of those meetings or discussions, so I don't know, what the impact of that ask is. But that's what's needed to ensure that claims are getting paid and funding's available for future claims. I think overall the strategy would have worked, but there were certain circumstances and things that just didn't line up with recommendations. So.
Council?
Mary and I have kind of discussed this $30,000 addition per month. And correct me if I'm wrong, Mary, if I understand anything incorrectly, but we are capable of making that payment. But when you start looking at complex things like, does the city pay the whole thing, or do we start billing the employees that have to pay part of their premium? Do we bill part of that to them and then cover the whole thing for everybody else that doesn't, say police department or individual employees that don't pay any extra? Or do you divvy the whole thing up amongst all the employees? I think that we felt it was most fair just for the city to pay the whole thing, and in the future just use it as a tool maybe for negotiating with the union or something. I think that's where it would probably fit.
If I could add to that conversation, the other component of our plan that we don't talk about a whole lot is the HSA and the contributions that the city makes to the health savings account. Then the contributions have been made at the same level for the last 12 years. That, again, recommendation when we first sat down was just for a couple of years, and then consider leveling that off to maybe a matching contribution, let the employee put money into the HSA and the city would match. It might be time to really give that a hard look for 2021.
I don't hear any council members choking yet.
Trying to swallow it.
Swallowing that.
Like I said, for 12 years walking in here with great news, seems like this is one where I have good news for you. It's not terrible news, it could be better.
Like you say, it's hard to have a crystal ball and be able to see what the future holds every year, so. Just one of those years that we got caught. We got hammered with.
Over the years, Mr. Powers has done a good job for us. It's kind of like the stock markets, they go up and down.
I will say it was really, I mean, when we were doing our in-depth analysis, it was really about 300,000, but we've got reinsurance protection for the excess of the 152. It's just that 152 that kind of has a gap.
I like that donut hole.
Trying to avoid the donut hole, Larry.
Any other questions for Jason? If not, I make a motion we consider the update from Mr. Powers. You'll be back?
I'm actually going to stick around just in case as you go through budget discussions. If there's any question about how that may have an impact on renewal, we'll be happy to answer those questions. And again, I'm happy to come back anytime. Most definitely, we'll be coming in October to really look through what the renewal options are and kind of start strategizing like how we're going to pivot in 2021. But I think there's some options. We've been in this plan for 3 years. There just comes there's some advantages to looking outside to other stop loss markets after a few years, just because your rates get a little stale.
You need a motion to accept his update?
You don't really
Okay. Thank you, I think.
Appreciate the time.
Item 9, consider ordinance 2440, amending section 10-117 of the Holdridge Municipal Code to allow the sale of alcohol in the city of Holdridge on election days. That has never been allowed in the past. A couple of years ago, we did allow sale of alcohol on Sundays. This is something, Mary, you want to address? Or?
Sure, I can address that. So, like you mentioned a couple of years ago, we decided to allow alcohol sales on Sundays. And the discussion we had at that time is that people were leaving town to buy their alcohol, and we'd rather keep that revenue here inside of city limits to benefit our local business owners. And so this is very much the same issue. A couple of years ago, you know, we didn't want to lump it in with the Sunday sales and do Sunday and election day at the same time. And now we've got a request from a business owner to allow alcohol sales on election day. I don't see any reason to continue to prohibit those sales. And I would suggest that we pass this.
I have not heard any requests from any of the public on this, but I'm not in that crowd.
Would Sherry like to speak to this ordinance? Sherry?
She pretty much, you haven't said it, it's the revenue. I mean, being the only liquor store, I'm closed, can't sell anything, candy bars. So I lose out on a whole day of sales, so they can go, they go to other towns. So the city's missing out on it too. And it's just kind of a hassle. I have to be down there anyways to deliver salesmen. There's a lot of times I've gone to other places and they forget that they can't sell.
What's other communities do?
They sell it everywhere around the state.
How will this affect the bar owners in addition to off-sale liquor? Would they be able to be open as well?
Yeah, they can be open, but they can't sell alcohol during the hours that
There's no
the
alcohol
polls are
sold
open.
Right now.
till
Right
8
now,
p.m.
correct.
But if this passes,
Yeah.
they would have the
Correct.
same option to stay open and sell
Right.
alcohol
Yep.
as any off-sale.
Yep.
Does anybody know which closest town has a different law than ours?
All of them.
Baxtel, Elma, Elm Creek, Odessa.
Most?
Arnie?
And you run into Holdridge people.
Minden.
Yeah, it's you.
We can sell it at 8 o'clock. So you've got limited hours, it's just kind of silly.
What's the council's wishes?
So we'll have first
So we did
reading.
read it.
First reading ordinance 2440. An ordinance to amend chapter 10, article 1, section 10-117 of the Holdridge Municipal Code related to alcoholic beverages, hours of sale. To repeal all other ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith. To to provide for the severability of all parts hereof, and to designate the time described when this ordinance shall be in effect. Be it ordained by the mayor and council of the city of Holdridge, Nebraska.
I'd move to approve first reading.
I'll second that.
Sisson,
Yes.
Dermott,
Yes.
Gibbon,
Yes.
Burbine,
Yes.
Bucher,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Aldridge,
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
I don't think there's any need to suspend the rules. If we pass this next meeting, she'll still be able, it'll still go into effect in time for election day, is that right?
We got September yet.
Yeah, I don't think there's any reason to suspend the rules on this. Well, second
If
reading.
there's
next
any
meeting,
public
and then
input,
good to
we
go.
can, this will be on the next council meeting. Okay, thank you. Item 10, consider the mayor's appointment of Sean Keyshawn to the Holdridge Planning Commission, filling vacancy left by Glenn Tulane, in the term ending in 2020. It'll be up for reappointment at the end of this year. Sean Keyshawn is a member of, he worked for the Black Hills Energy. He is part of the leadership of Holdridge group. Approached him about serving, he jumped at the chance. So it's good to have somebody who's looking forward to serving our community in that capacity. We have a very good planning commission, and like to keep that going. Glenn Tulane had resigned several months ago. I would recommend that we appoint Sean Keyshawn to the Planning Commission.
I'll make a motion to approve it.
I'll second.
Give me Mike Sisson.
Burbine,
Yes.
Bucher,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Aldridge,
Yes.
Simpson,
Yes.
Sisson,
Yes.
McDermott,
Yes.
Gibbons.
Yes.
Thank you. We're also short another member of the Planning Commission. I'd like to appoint Tom Rust to fill the vacancy left by Brad Perry. Brad Perry has accepted another position, but he is now living outside of the city's jurisdiction. So he is not capable. He was very disappointed when I told him that, tough luck, Charlie. But Tom Rust has expressed an interest a couple times about being appointed to the city council, and he'd be a good councilman, but I said, right now, I need somebody with your abilities on the planning commission. And I think that's a good start for Tom, and he did accept that. So I would ask that the council approve Tom Rust to the planning commission.
I'll make a motion we approve Tom.
Mike Sisson,
I'll second.
Feuerbach,
McDermott,
Yes.
Gibbons,
Yes.
Burbine,
Yes.
Bucher,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Aldridge,
Yes.
Simpson,
Yes.
Sisson.
Yes.
Just Mike for a minute, I didn't think anybody was gonna make the motion to accept it. Put me on the spot here. The thing we've been waiting for today, item number 12, discussion of 2021 fiscal year budget. It's that time of the year. Mary McGill and Dane Jensen.
Mary's gonna do, I'm here for emotional support.
This is the best time of the whole.
Certainly glad I didn't miss it.
They don't want to stay for the fun.
Just as far as on that front page, some of the budget highlights, we did get the property tax valuation. It did go up to $339 million, which is about a 4.8% increase over last year. So, changed it just a little bit from draft one on what we had anticipated. But just in that draft that you have there, we set the property tax levy at 45 cents, which is an increase over what we've been doing the last few years. Put in health insurance, most of them we increased by 15%. Liability insurance, we increased by about 5%. The work comp insurance, we increased 40% from some of the information that Dane had gotten that's gonna be going up. The municipal equalization and state highway allocation, those are numbers that come from the state, so we adjusted to that. I didn't change the sales tax receipts. They've been running pretty much this year what they have last year, and we just decided to more or less leave those at the same rate. The occupation tax, I put it 100,000. It's kind of a shot in the dark till we know what happened, so it's just more or less a starting point. The library, we set at the 360,000, which was the request that they had presented to the council. And then the electric, water, and sewer revenues were increased approximately 3%. You've passed the one for the electric, and water and sewer are being considered at this point. So, and then down farther on the page, the draft 2 changes just kind of show some of the individual accounts that were changed from draft 1. Most of that was done to meet the lid requirements. And then there was a few of them that just to kind of clean up what draft 1 was. But overall, a lot of the budget is the same as what it was last year. One of the biggest thing is probably that beginning cash balance in the general fund has gone down approximately $695,000 from last year. So that was one of the reasons we bumped that levy up to 45 cents. And by doing that, that will generate approximately an additional $150,000. So every cent, right, the year that we're in right now, the levy was at 40 and a half cents. But every cent that you go up changes at about 34,000. And by state law, you can go up to the 45 cents.
Historically, I look back in 2003, we were at 49, and I don't know why that was, how we got that high in our tax levy, but then we decided at some point in time to go down rather than maintain or go up. For several years, we went down, and we landed on that number for about, I don't know, 10 years or several years now. And we just stayed flat. Of course, as our expenses go up, and we have to pay for our employees a little bit more every year, it seems like, and our insurance a little bit more every year, and we don't generate any more income to cover those expenses. So.
And this is a year we've really seen that with some of the expenses we've had come in, so.
And just kind of a rough estimate on what that would change as far as the city levy going from 40 cents to 45 cents on like $150,000 home would be about $66. On a $200,000 home would be about $88.
Where does that put us in reference to anybody else's rates?
Right now, state statutes, you can go to 45 cents plus 5 cents for interlocal agreements. So unless they have an override of some type, the most that any town can do is 45 cents. Which I don't know an exact number, but a lot of them are at 45 cents. There's a few towns that have large sales tax revenues or maybe considerably lower than that, but a lot of towns are at 45 cents.
I'm sure that's a good question, but in the overall picture, just your tax levy isn't the whole answer, because, so if you look at somebody like Kearney that has several taxes on several different things, their levy is extremely low, but they generate so much more revenue to other taxes and fees that they charge. So it's similar to when we looked at increasing the electrical revenue, you know, just the cost per kilowatt hour doesn't really tell you much, it's the whole picture.
What are we looking at for capital improvements for next year? Anything specific?
As far as specific projects, I don't have. I know one thing that Kim had talked about was the basketball court at the South Park. So there's money in the park department for that. And just a lot of those are budgeted for the same as what they have been in prior years. Or is
Southball Park, tennis court, we're looking at maybe 90,000?
Correct.
And just to meet that lid requirement, we have to have capital outlays, so if something goes wrong with the auditorium or the swimming pool, whatever, those numbers are in there, which they have to be in there to meet that lid requirement. But as far as specific projects being earmarked, I don't know as if that has actually been done by the department heads or not.
Council have any questions or suggestions that you'd like to see, different things, or other than a lot more cash reserve? Ball field improvements, you've got 750,000 this year plugged into there, it looked like.
It's one of the big ones that's hanging out there, isn't it?
Yeah.
At some point in time, the city's going to have a dedicated revenue source to help pay for these ball fields. And I can't think of a better place to generate that revenue than that occupation tax. I think we need to give serious thought to earmarking that money for Parks and Rec. We have got to get these fields built. And we need a revenue source. I think there's some good things going to happen about raising money for this with the foundation. I spent a couple hours with Kara a week ago, and we had a really good discussion. And I know some of you have talked to her since, and I think we're on the right track. I think it's going to happen. I know it's going to happen. But I think we need to look at that occupation tax. We need to hire a rec director. That needs to happen soon. When these fields, this person should be involved when these fields are being built. We have numerous recreational things going on in this community, tennis courts and just all kinds of things that we need somebody running that for the city. Have one person be in charge of it. And that's going to take considerable dollars just doing that.
And it won't be just with finishing the ball fields, for down the road.
Yeah,
All the improvements that were being looked at as far as, like I said, with South Park fields and.
Looking for grants and
Yeah.
promoting our activities that we do have.
I know we've been lucky, we've done pretty good. I know Kim's worked real hard with everything he can, but he's only got so many hours in the day. He
No, it needs to
can't put the time toward it, and it would help him out, I know, a lot, so. I think we seriously gotta move that direction if we can.
I think we'll discuss this in admin and finance with the mayor, and maybe we'll come back with a proposal to the city I'd like to see this get done.
Oh, no, it's good then.
And there is gonna be no revenue for this first year. It's not gonna be close to that 100,000.
I just
I know.
picked it as a starting point.
No, it is. I'd love it. We all would.
Be great if it's even more.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a place to start, like Mary said, that we just need that dedicated revenue source, and that's one option the city has, and we don't have very many. We're struggling to pay for the other things in the budget.
Sometime, we talked about a code enforcement officer too. I don't know if you guys could get a part-time code enforcement officer.
That's been on the table a couple of years.
Yeah.
Talked about it for a lot of years.
Yeah.
That, looks like that's a good start on the budget anyway.
What type of code enforcement officer are you looking at?
Well, I think even if we had a part-time, weed and litter and the police do, that's part of their job right now. But they've got so many other things going on their plate.
Security.
Just buildings. We got a lot of dilapidated buildings that something needs to be happening to them, and we haven't put that on the police department yet. LB 424 did get approved here last week, the land bank bill, so that might give us a tool down the road. Regional land bank with different communities, different counties. Omaha and Lincoln has that, so we can possibly give us another tool to take over some dilapidated properties that nobody else will touch. We can clean them up, get them back on the property tax rolls. We'll see what happens there. Any other questions, suggestions, comments? Keep the money coming. Thank you, Dane, Mary.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Appreciate all the work. Item 13, we'll skip that. We'll now have open discussion. Chief?
Got nothing other than Officer Poole will be graduating from the training center this Friday, and he'll come back and continue his field training program, probably for at least another 8 weeks, and then he'll be on his own. He might be on his own a little bit in that time, but he'll be graduating Friday.
The low-key graduation, I presume, with this COVID?
There aren't many, I think it's limited. Chiefs can attend, I think family members can attend, probably immediate family. I texted him today and he said, yeah, I would be allowed to come. So.
Cool. Thank you. Dave?
I want to thank Mary for her work on the budget. She's doing all the work. And her tolerance of me stepping into her office 2 or 3 times a day and asking her questions about it, because she's always very patient, explains everything very well. You'll notice in your packet that Brian gave you some utility bill, their averages of utility bills, which is a better picture than the kilowatt hour type of thing, so you can see where Holdridge really lies kind of in the middle of things, and I think we're fair with people. It looked good to me. Thank you for that. And then Councilmember McDermott had emailed me when you've got this thing on your desk, it says community engagement and discussion, and when she emailed that, I thought, that sounds like something that I think would do our community good, and so I called this Daniel, and he's very receptive. In fact, I think he called again yesterday, and will be engaging with the UNK students in some type of community engagement and communication project that they have going, and I don't understand it all quite yet, and I don't know by talking to Daniel if he does either, but we'll move forward in September a little bit with it. And that's all I had.
Thanks, Dane. Troy?
Nothing.
Councilmember Fuker? Nothing yet.
I'm so new, no.
You're saving it.
You know, the new guy always has a lot to say in the first meeting.
Let's get a speech.
You know, we limit your speech to 15 minutes.
Yeah, well, let's just go home 15 minutes early.
Ben?
I just want to welcome Trent to the council. That's it.
Thank you.
Good luck.
You're gonna need it.
Feel free.
Come back. You gotta say that since you're.
Kim, any update on the,
I knew you were gonna ask that. No, there's no, I haven't.
Really?
So I'm gonna call Greg tomorrow and find out.
I've swept our block, cleaned up the sand and the
Buy some
gravel.
brooms.
You might have to. It's pretty bad, so. He usually calls me about every Tuesday and he hasn't called, so.
Is there any bad intersections that need cleaned up? We got a Serve Sunday project coming up on the 27th.
Well, there's still a windshield down at the underpass from where that vehicle hit the, we gotta get picked up.
A couple of vehicles.
Doug?
I don't have anything. I just echo what Ben said about Trent. Welcome aboard.
You'll fit in.
Yeah.
Thank you. Mike?
I have nothing.
Mary?
Nothing, thank you.
Mr. Gibbons?
Other than welcome Trent.
Ryan? Saving your speech for later, huh? Kim?
I am working on raising water and sewer rates. I hope to have something, at least for the council packet, but I'm gonna like to meet with my committee beforehand, before we go full bore with it, so they know what's going on too. So hopefully within the month I have something to come to council with.
Before budget.
Yeah.
Good, thank you. Ryan?
I don't have anything.
Did they get that underground fixed up 14th between Arthur and Garfield?
The spot that went bad is fixed, but there are two other direct buried cables on each side of it that while we're there, we're gonna do those also, cause then we're tearing up the alley once instead of coming back again. So they've got one of the other ones done, so they're working on the third one and we'll be
Whoa.
out of there.
Wow. Nice project.
Yep.
Always busy. I think Mary's giving her speech. Anything else? We need to go into, consider a matter of litigation, going into a closed session.
so moved?
Aldrich makes the motion.
Second.
Mike Sisson, closed session.
Simpson,
Yes.
Sisson,
Yes.
McDermott,
Yes.
Gibbons,
Yes.
Burbine. Yes. Euchre,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.